Welcome to We Are City of Five Nations podcast, our 30 Days of Community Building series. And today we have a special guest with us in the banking industries from right here in the City of Five Nations. And we are going to talk about the PPP or the CARE Act. As a business owner, a lot of this stuff can get confusing, and I'm certainly one, and I'm certainly confused. And Congress recently passed the Paycheck Protection Program administered by the Small Business Administration, the SBA. The main goal of the program is to help small businesses cover their near-term operating expenses during the worst of the crisis and to provide a strong incentive for employers to retain their employees. And with that, I welcome Casey Bell, president of our county's BancFirst. And Casey, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Daniel, how are you doing this morning? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great, and I'm going to come off the cuff a little bit from some things that we talked about, because I want people to understand that just like the rest of us, you're a human being. You've got a wonderful life outside of the bank, even though right now banks are being swamped. I want you to tell us a little bit about you and your family.
Oh, thanks, Daniel. I am not a Pottawatomie County native. I'm originally from Northwest Oklahoma, a little town called Fairview. My wife and I, Jamie, we met at Oklahoma State University. It's a long time ago, it feels like now, but we moved here. Actually, have lived in Pottawatomie County twice, lived here right out of college and then moved away. I worked for the Federal Reserve Bank in Kansas City for about 6 or 7 years, and just had the opportunity to come back to Pottawatomie County. My family and I have been here since '06. I have 2 girls. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. They go to Dale High School and Dale Middle School. We, as a family, we are a sports family, play sports all the time, and that's what makes up most of my free time. So with everything going on in this environment that we're living today, our lives, just like everyone else's, came to a standstill, and we're spending a lot more family time together than we ever have. And so I guess there's some positives that come out of this very kind of dim situation that we live in. So that's where we're at.
I love that you point that out, Casey, because I really do see that as a great positive. All of us having to kind of back out of our world and get reestablished in our real world, which is the community of our home. And, for me, it's been an adjustment, but man, I love my family, but it's almost like falling in love again. In a new way and in a more special way with the people who really are the closest to me. I know your daughter, we've talked before, she's a softball standout, and maybe sometime we can talk to dad and daughter and talk a little bit of sports.
I tell you what, we would love that, and being able to talk to my oldest about softball would be amazing. And when we do that, we're going to have to talk to my youngest, because she's equally excited about soccer. She plays soccer all over the country, and so I don't want her to feel left out. So it may have to be kind of a tag team conversation between both of them.
Way to go, Pops. Well, this Wednesday, I don't know if you realize, and just before we get into our talk, we'll transition, but coming up on Wednesday, we're going to talk to Piper McNeil, who's a freshman at Shawnee High School, and her dad, Bob McNeil, who actually coaches swimming. But Piper was just named an All-American for the high school swimmers. And also, she took home 3 state championships from the 6A swimming meet just a month or so ago here in the state of Oklahoma. So we look forward to talking with Piper McNeil, one of the best swimmers as a freshman in all of high school sports in our nation. So, Casey, with that, let's jump into this SBA, CARES Act, PPP. As a banker, help us to navigate this. Where do I start? Because I'm a business owner and I've got a lot of questions.
I understand completely, and even the folks on this side of the desk have a lot of questions. Just to kind of set this up a little bit for you, we started hearing there was some things that were going to break loose in terms of support for our small businesses. We started hearing, I guess, a week ago last Monday, 2 weeks ago today, actually. 2 weeks ago today, I'm losing track of time. 2 weeks ago today, we started learning that there was going to be some programs that were going to become available outside of the economic injury disaster loan, which is the EIDL, and that was a loan that small businesses were able to apply directly through SBA. So they would actually go onto an SBA portal and they would make that application. We learned that there was going to be another part of stimulus that was coming through CARES legislation that would be specific to payroll of our small businesses across the country. And it looked like that we being the banks, were going to administer that program on behalf of SBA. So 2 weeks ago today, we started getting some information together, and we started contacting our customers and making sure that they were aware of what we thought, and that is a key word, of what we thought was going to be needed from them to make application for this credit. We rocked along there for about 4 days, communicating with our customers, gathering information. And then Thursday night of that week, Thursday night about 10:30, we got from the SBA what was considered the interim final rule. And so basically that was the guidance on how the PPP loan program was to be administered. And it was going live that next day, that Friday. And so we were trying to.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. As a business owner, I heard about the SBA loan, a number of weeks ago, let's say a month ago, that it was coming out, and that, everybody was swirling. It was a first come, first serve loan. And then a couple of weeks later, I heard about the PPP loan. And I know those numbers aren't exact as far as dates, but are there two different loan processes going on right now? And if so, how do I know which one I want to apply for? What's the difference?
Right. And so basically, as we've learned more about those two loan programs, one being the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and that's the loan that we heard about first. That was the loan that was being applied directly through and administered by the SBA. That is a pure working capital loan that has terms up to 30 years, a fixed rate of 3.75. That was just a working capital loan. So that was the thing that people started hearing about first. After that, there was another part of the legislation that was a little bit slower to be released, and that was the PPP loan. And to be specific, that's the Paycheck Protection Program loan. That was being administered through the community banks via SBA. These loans are being administered by SBA preferred lenders, and they are kind of handling that process. So that's where you're actually working with the bank that you bank at, whether or not they're taking applications or not. Some are, some aren't. Here at BancFirst, we definitely are. There's several other community banks here in town that are taking them as well. It's been a little convoluted process. And to answer your question, which one do I apply for? Our direction has been from the very onset, not knowing the pure guidance, the pure rule for both programs. We've instructed our customers to apply for both. The thing that we know, the Paycheck Protection Program loan, the theory behind that loan is to reestablish paychecks, right? Is to reestablish paychecks of your workers. And so there is some rules where you're not able to commingle funds from the EIDL and the PPP for payroll. You have to make a decision. I'm using EIDL for payroll, or I'm using PPP for payroll. The thing that we're seeing most is that EIDL is being used for working capital outside of payroll, and PPP is being used for payroll.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's go on now to what I might have interrupted you, because today we're going to talk about the PPP specific loan, which is something that our community banks actually are in the process with us. So having a friend like you, Casey, and being able to come and walk us along, that's the advantage of community. We appreciate you being here and help us out to get through this process.
Well, I appreciate that. I tell you what, this has been a very taxing process on everyone in the community. I know that everyone, small business owner, banks alike, have been putting in tireless hours to make this program work for our community. Obviously, there's no program that's rolled out this quickly as this program has been rolled out that goes without issue. There's definitely some friction. So it's difficult and it's been hard to roll out, but for the most part, I mean, it's went pretty good for the timeline that we've had to roll it out in.
Great. So how do I get started in the process?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I tell you what, Daniel, what I would direct you to is just BancFirst.bank, and that'd be BancFirst, BancFirst.bank, BANK. Pull that webpage up if you could. All right. And right in front of you, you're going to see Loyal to You. If you'll click on that banner, if you'll go back there and click that banner. Yep, there you go. Apply here. Whoop.
I'm sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing. We'll go back to that one.
There you go, right there. Click that. Perfect. So Daniel, kind of how we get started is just kind of from the very get-go. I mean, this is our BancFirst webpage. This is how we are selecting. This is how we're administering the applicants that are coming through. I would point out at the top page there, after the second paragraph, it's red. It says self-employed persons and independent contractors. April 10th was
Okay, Casey.
designated the date in which we could start applications. We are yet on employed persons, contractors.
Let me stop you just for a second because you're being choppy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you backstage for just a moment. And I'd like for you to re-engage with us via the link. And I'm going to talk to this because I've been to this page before, and I think that I can help my counterparts in business come through this. And as we look at this page, it says self-employed persons and independent contractors. And it says download application. So when we click on the download application, basically it sends the application to our computer. Then we have the payroll use proceeds calculator. That actually turns into an Excel file in which we can download to our computer as well. So we would just download the calculator from this website, BancFirst.bank. And we've clicked on the banner which says Payroll Protection Program, the PPP Protection Program. And those two pieces really are the application process, which is very simple to go through. And then if you see right there in the middle of your screen, the completed beneficial owner form, that we're going to use when we start to upload our documents back to the bank. So go ahead and download the completed beneficial owner form as well now. And that would put basically three files on your computer, and you can find those via your downloads. And we'll try to bring Casey back on now, and we can then go to the application. Actually, I believe that we have the application that we'll be able to show. And you're watching the We Are City of Five Nations podcast, our series of 30 days of community building. And we've been privileged to be able to bring this to you over the past number of weeks. And I'm a small business owner, and I have questions about the SBA and the PPP processes. And so we thought, hey, if we're having problems kind of understanding the convoluted process, who better to bring on than a bank president, somebody who understands it, one of the largest banks in our state. And it actually started right here by a family from the city of Five Nations. Of course, I'm talking about BancFirst. And we're happy to have president of our local county BancFirst with us, and that is Casey Bell. And Casey, I've taken people through the internet process, and maybe that's where we were having some problems, but we have now downloaded the application, we downloaded the calculator, and then we downloaded the last piece that we're going to need for business owners to be able to verify and sign. And what I'd like for us to go through now, if you don't mind, is go to the application if we can, unless there's something else that you think that we need to talk about before we get to that application.
Yeah, we can definitely go through that application. That's no problem at all. Daniel, I'm having a little bit of hard time of hearing you. It's kind of cut up a little bit, so
I'm not sure why we're having that trouble. You actually sound very good to me now. Is that helping you?
You're cutting in and out.
Okay. Isn't it one of these days? It must be a Monday, Casey. It must be a Monday.
It's Monday. I would like to start today. If I could restart today, that would be amazing.
Well, what we're going to do is, I love the start that we have to this podcast, but I want to make sure that you're clear with everybody here. And I appreciate your time, so I don't want to waste your time. We're going to do this again. I'm going to come back to you maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, but we're going to go through the application process together when we know that we have better connectivity. Does that sound okay?
Awesome. That'd be great.
Hey, Casey, thank you for your time. I'm going to boot you off now, go backstage, and we will get back together and finish this process, and I'll just finish with our audience.
Perfect.
Yes, we want to make sure that we have good connectivity to get this information to you. So we will start a new podcast at another date in which we will go through the application process itself. There's an application. I've been through it. It's pretty simple reading. The calculator is pretty straightforward. So if you want to download those to your computer and actually follow along when we come back with the podcast and we get these technical difficulties figured out, you have been watching, and we thank you for going along with us. We are City of Five Nations podcast and our series, 30 Days of Community Building. And remember, here in the City of Five Nations, together, we are building community one season at a time. Good night, everybody. Goodbye, everybody. Good day, everybody.